All right. Thank you everyone for joining. This is the power of Descope Flows, painless password authentication. I'm Eric. I'm a DevRel engineer here with Descope. I'm based out of Long Island, New York. A few of my hobbies are watching TV and movies, cooking, reading, and board and computer games. But I'll go over the agenda for today. So first I'll start with some quick background about Descope and common password authentication challenges that both users and developers might face. And then I'll go over a demo showing how easy it is to build out a password flow and use Descope flows to get yourself to a solid authentication spot. So Descope, we're a full-fledged authentication and authorization platform that focuses on easy to implement authentication practices. The main way we do this is by flows, which we have an example here that lets you build a custom and easy to use user journey for authentication through our easy to use UI. We all know that passwords, especially in today's day and age, aren't ideal. There's all sorts of issues, including primarily security, whether that be on the user end with things like password reuse, or whether that be attackers trying to use things like phishing or other malicious attacks. And today I'll show how you can try and leverage some of the tools from Descope to build a easier to use and more secure password environment. So as I mentioned, I'll go over a demo showcasing how you can build out an authentication flow for passwords and adjust some security settings to bring yourself to a more secure environment. So with that, let's get started and delve into building out a Descope flow. So first thing here is I'll go to the Descope console. You're more than welcome to create an account, or if you have one, use an account and follow along. So once we're in our Descope console, we can go over to the flows tab right here, and we can create a new flow. And I'll be calling this flow webinar sign up, because I'll be start with building a sign up flow. So once you create a new flow, you're dropped in this grid for the Descope flow creation, and you have these start and end tabs where your flow will start and end. So the first thing we'll want to do in building our sign up flow is adding a screen. You add elements with this button here. So we'll come over here and we'll add a screen. A screen is an element that the user will normally see or interact with. So the first thing that happens when we create the screen is we're dropped into this page where we can modify the screen. So let's start with, we're given the sample screen body text. So we'll click on this and we can start by adjusting this. So we're building a sign up flow. So we can change this text to welcome, please sign up. And then we want to make this easier to read and follow along with. So we can then come over here and increase the size so it's easier to read. The next thing we can do is, for organizational purposes, it's easiest to have things managed through containers. So we can create a container here, and then we'll add a button and for the user to interact with. So since we're building a sign up flow, we can call this button sign up. And then that's all that takes here. Then we'll want to add an input, of course. So we'll start with an email, and we'll want to make sure that is in the container. So we'll create this email. You can customize things like the label and placeholder text, and we'll make this mandatory so that the user has to enter an email before proceeding. And then the last step is we'll want to add a password. And there's two options, login and new. Since a user is signing up, we'll use new password. Again, we'll drag that into the container, and we can enable password confirmation here so that the user has to confirm their password, make sure they didn't make any mistakes, and retype it. Once we've done all of that, we can just rename the screen so it's easy to follow along with and know what it does. And we can just call this sign up and click done. And then we'll have this sign up screen. So with that, we've already built the basic element and first thing the user will interact with and see when they start using this flow. The next thing we'll want to do though is this by itself is just the screen that they interact with. So we'll want to go back over here and we'll want to add an action, and we can search for a password. And since we're building the sign up flow, we'll go with the sign up password action. So then we'll just click down and drop this, and we'll need to start connecting these items. So we can start with the start point, connect that to the sign up screen, and then connect the sign up action from the screen, or the button rather, to the actual sign up action. And then we can drag this to the end. And if you want, you can click this button down here and it'll just straighten this all out. And if we go ahead and we can save this flow, for example, and we can demo this with showing how this already runs. So if I come over here to run flow, it lets you demo it in the console. So I can come over here, for example, let me just grab this password. So if I come over here to create an account, and I'll type in this username and copy this password over. And now if I go to sign up, we'll see that this account was created and this user was created. And I'll note, and I'll loop back to this in a moment, but you'll notice the authentication is completed. And you'll notice here, though, the user email isn't verified, but the user was created. So if I come over here to the user page, you'll notice again that this user was just created right now with this email, but the email isn't verified. Now, if we come back to the sign up, for example, and I just run this again to showcase you made an account, but what happens if a user comes back? So if we try even to sign up again, if my keyboard cooperates with me today, and I'll use the same password, that we'll get this error that the user already exists. So we'll have to build a sign-in flow rather. But before I move to building the sign-up flow, I touched on the verification aspect. Email verification is important for our system as it allows you to ensure that the user's identity is confirmed and verified, and they can use features later on like resetting their password. So to get a user email verification set up, it's super straightforward. All we have to do again is come here, go to actions, and we can look for update user. And there's a few different options. There's magic link, enchanted link over emails, SMS options, but we'll go with OTP over email. So we'll click this and it'll generate a subflow for us automatically. And then with this, all we have to do is change the connection. So we can break the connection from where it signs up your password to here, and instead just link that to the start of this subflow for verification. And I can drag this new end over here. Once again, I can just realign the flow so it's easier to look at and save this. Now, if I go through and run this flow, I can demonstrate the user verification and what that looks like and show that that actually does make a difference. So I'll sign up with a different email. Oops, if my keyboard wanted to cooperate with me, that'd be helpful. Let me just delete this. Sorry, looks like the keyboard and mouse aren't fans of passwords today. So let's just delete all these extra items. And then I'll move on and showcase the logging in. So I'll save this new flow, run this. And now let me try and sign up with a new account. So let me copy over this password and sign up with this new account. So now when we sign up, we're dropped to this new page asking me to enter the OTP that was sent to my email. So let me go quickly grab that. And once I have that code, I can copy it back over from the email. And now we'll notice I'm authenticated. And if we look here to verified email, we'll see that this is now true. and that the user is properly verified. And we can demonstrate that too if we come back over here to users, that this new user was both created and the email is verified. So before I move on to the sign-in flow, just as an example of when you might want just a sign-up flow, could be something like if you're building a new application and you want to create a wait list so users could start signing up before you might have an actual feature set. This would let you take those emails down or start building out basic accounts for them. However, now we built the sign-up flow and we can switch to building a sign-in flow. So I'll come over here and build out this, we'll call this webinar sign-in. I'll create this new flow. And again, we're dropped in this familiar spot with the start and end tags. And just like when we built the sign-up flow, we'll follow a similar process. So over here, we'll come to the add button and we'll check a new screen, which will drop us back in here. We'll want to adjust the text again. This time we could say something like, welcome, please sign in. And then similarly resize this so it's easier to read. We'll want to add a container again to make things straightforward for organizational purposes. And we can add a button into the container. In this case, we'll call this sign in. And then we'll need, once again, to add an email box for someone to fill out. We can make this mandatory. And again, you can customize text like the email for the label or the placeholder text. And then we'll go to passwords. And since we're this time not creating a password, but we're logging in, we can go to login password and we'll add that. And now we built our sign-in screen. So we can rename this to sign in and then save this. And we've now just built our sign-in screen. Similarly to the sign up, we'll have to add an action for this to actually do anything. So we'll come back over here to action, click on this, and we'll look for password and sign in with the password. This will generate a subflow similar to before, except this has a little more to it, which I'll touch on briefly. So it has the sign in password component with when you successfully sign in, but it also has this condition or this block for if the password's expired, which will take you to this password replace expired password screen, which even for these subflows, you can still customize them. Just because it generates a subflow doesn't mean you're locked into that as is. You can change the text, change some of the handling, and really customize this to your full use case. But we do generate that subflow so it's easy to implement. And now, just like last time, you'll want to start connecting everything. So we'll connect start to the sign-in screen, the sign-in screen to this start of the sign-in action. And one thing you want to be careful about here is there's two actions you'll want to connect. You'll want to connect both the successful login to the end, and you'll also want to connect the replace password to the end. And then you can hit the organization button that will just neaten the flow back up. And if we save this flow, we'll be able to sign in. So to sign in, I want to shift to something a little more practical. So we have a sample application called TETs. This is a sample application we use to demo how flows work. In this case, it's like a model t-shirt and swag shop. So here you can vary the parameters. And so I'll be using this with the specific flow I was showing. I just want to make sure this is saved. And now if I refresh the page, we'll see our sign-in flow. So now let me just make sure I copy the password over. If I go and take my email that I used last time to sign up with the account and the password, if I click sign in, we're now signed in. And so just in this simple step and without even making any application changes, we now have a basic functional sign up and sign in flow. So you could get things rolling that way. But there's other features here, and I'll continue to build on that and show really how easy it is to use Descope Flows to iterate, improve, or make more expansive your authentication user journeys as needed. The first thing I do want to touch on, though, is what it looks like when the password expires. So for this, you can actually manually expire a password. If you come over here to users, we'll take this user I made, and we can click on this button over here and set or expire a password. So if we click expire password, the password is, as it entails, now expired. So now when we try and sign in, it'll trigger this password expired flow and ask us to replace our expired password. So I'll log out and I'll come back to the login page. And now if I try, and let me just grab this password so I have it handy. Now if I try and log in to my to TETs again, and I enter the password, it'll say the password's expired and ask me to replace it with a new one. So if I enter my current password, and then let me just grab a new password, for example, and I can enter new passwords, the new password I want, and I can click update password. It will update the new password, and I can show that working too if I want. Let's just grab this over once again to reload the page. And if I try and log in with, this is the new password I have. If I sign in with this password. So that's how password expiry works right out of the box. The next thing you might want to add, of course, is something like a reset password button if someone forgot their password. So that's very straightforward to also do. And again, I just want to point out, it's really easy to iterate. You realize you left out a feature, you need to add a new one. It's very easy. You just come right back and you can add that in. So to help build out the organization and design for this, we'll use a new container. I'll drag it out here. And then for help with alignment, I'll bring the password item into this new container. And I will bring a new button into this container. And then I'll click on the container itself. Let's bring down the horizontal padding so it's all aligned. And we can do things like adjust the vertical padding so there's not that huge gap between it. And we can change the alignment so that this button is over here and not in your way if you're trying to, sign in. So now we can change this text to something like forgot your password, reset it, or click to reset. And then we can change the variant. There's a few different variants here. We'll use something like link so it looks, again, not necessarily confused with the sign-in link. And we can change the size to shrink it down. So again, it's not as in your face. And for that, now we've added this button and we can click done, go back to this main page, and we'll see since we've added that new button, it gives us this new option that we can, or new chain we can build off of from the screen. And so we can, but by itself won't do anything. So we can come back over here. We can add an action. In this case, we'll want a password. We can go for send password reset. So we'll click that and it'll generate out this whole subflow, which again, you can play around with and customize as you want to suit your needs. So the first thing we'll do is we'll connect this to the start of this flow over here. And then we'll bring this end of the update password, again, connect it to the end here, and we can neaten up the flow so it's easy to read. Now, if we save this, we can come back to the TET store, and we have this forgot your password option. Now, one thing I'll note, and I'll show you when I click this, it won't let me reset the password right away. It'll ask me to fill out the email field. This is because under the screen, we had validate inputs checked and we have email mandatory. So this can be good for, not letting someone waste time there. But this is also powerful because something like this, if you, let's say you didn't want that and this is an error, and you want someone to be able to click reset their password either way, it's just very easy. You would come over here, untick validate inputs, hit done, hit save, and those changes are made without any change or overhead to your application. So now let me show you how reset password works. So I will enter my email in that I've been using here, and then I'll click to reset password. So now it'll send an email to my account, or to my email rather, with a link to reset my password. So if I click that email, it brings me over here to this reset password page. So I'll go with a new password. I'll just change the number in it to 3. So now I'm using this as the new password, and I can reset the password and it takes me back here. And I can, if I want, log out, for example, and I can come back here. And now if I try and log in, if I could type, that would be helpful. And if I enter this new password that we just reset to, I'm once again all signed in. So that's very straightforward. Now, you might be asking, well, it's great. You have a sign up flow and a sign in flow, but how is that practical to use? And for that, I'll show you the next step of we'll combine these into a single flow, a single sign up, sign in password flow that you can use. And it's, again, Descope makes the tools really easy to go from even these two separate flows to a combined flow. So if we open in new tabs, our flows, and I'll open this, we have the sign in flow open, so I'll open the sign up flow, and then I'll come back over here and I'll build out a new flow, and I'll call this one webinar combined password, for example, and create this flow. So again, we're brought to this familiar Descope grid with the start and end points. Now, if I come over here, I'll come to the sign in flow. If I hold shift and I select with my mouse, I can select the whole flow. And then you want to make sure that everything is grabbed and highlighted. So once that's done, you can hit Control C and copy it over and come over here, Control V. And now you've just copied your whole flow over there. And we'll want to do the same thing with sign up. So now if we hold shift, we can once again copy our whole flow, Control C, and then come back over here, Control V, and copy over the sign up portion of the flow. Now, we'll have to make some changes to get this to work properly. So, well, first things first, we can connect the start point to sign in, and we can make sure that we go through and start having these connections properly added. So we will want to make sure that we connect the sign in password action, the replace password action, excuse me, and the update password to our endpoint. And similarly, we can add the sign up action to the end. And then here we'll have to figure out how we want to manage the option to sign in, or sign up rather, if we're starting here with this sign in screen. So an easy way of doing this is we can come over here, edit the sign in screen. We can come here, add a new container up at the top, and add a button. For example, we can change the type to a link, and we can go with something like, don't have an account, sign up here. And then we can change the size to be a bit smaller so it's out of the way. We can come over here to the container options, and we can just remove the vertical padding so it's a little less intrusive. And then one thing we'll want to do is make sure we don't have validate inputs checked. because again, that'll go off this mandatory email. If they tried to click sign up here and that you have the mandatory email, it would do the similar thing as before when we tried to reset the password, where it will ask them to enter an email, which doesn't make sense if you're just trying to click to sign up. So now we can click done, and you'll see, as we've done before, when you add a new button, it gives you this option to, direct what that button does. So here we'll direct this over to the sign up flow. And similarly, we'll edit the sign up flow, and we can add a container, and we'll reduce the vertical padding. Or actually, for ease of dragging in the item, I'll keep it there. Now I'll drag the button in. Now I can reduce the vertical padding. And if we click on this button, we could change this to something like already have, if I can type, already have an account, sign in here. And we can change this to be, again, a link, drop down the size. And just for sake of showcase, I'll leave this one checked to show you what that does look like and how it's just a really straightforward change to fix. And here I can click done, and we'll see this already have an account, sign in here option. So I can just direct this to the sign in screen. And with that, you want to make sure everything is connected. And we can click the alignment button, and it will align the flow better so it's easier to follow. And now if we save this, what we've just done here is built out a fully featured or fully functional sign up, sign in flow that handles signing up an account, someone signing in, dealing with an expired password, dealing with a password reset. And I will showcase to you what that looks like right over here. So now if we come over here back to TTTs, we're now brought, again, let me just make sure everything is saved. We are now brought to our new sign in, sign up flow. Here, don't have an account, sign up here. And just to mention, as I said before, we click sign up here, we're brought to the sign up flow. But here, if we click sign in here, it'll ask us, please fill out the field. That's something we don't want. It doesn't make sense. We're just trying to direct them back to sign in. So fixing an error like that takes 2 seconds. We'll come back over here to sign up. We'll click on this button. We'll tick this to not validate the input, done, save. And in 10 seconds, again, no change to the app. We have fixed our authentication or adjusted our authentication flow. So now I'll just reload the page, and I'll click don't have an account, sign up here. Let me grab a quick password just to copy paste it to save time on typing. And if I'll sign up with a new email account. If I enter my password, I can go sign up. This will send me an email with a OTP to ensure the email is linked and verified to the account. So I'll refer things like password reset. So I'll go and grab the OTP for my email. I'll copy that over. And now the password, I have this new user account signed up. And if I want, I'll show you the sign-in flow works as well. So first let me log out, and then I'll just I'll reload the page. And now here with this account we just created, if I enter my email, I can come over here. That's the OTP. Let me copy the password. And now if I sign in with this password, we're all good and we're signed in. So again, we now have, that's the sign in flow. We now have this fully built out sign in, sign up password flow that works for this use case here. And again, allows you to use something like password reset, password expiry, ensures that it's verified to make to have a user's identity confirmed for something like the password reset handling. And even if you run into errors or issues like we ran in with the validation, all you have to do is come back to your flow without making any change to your application and make those adjustments. So I mean, with that, it's again, we built out our user journey for authentication to deal with a secure environment. And now I can just show you in terms of how you can better secure or better enforce user password practices or user policy. We can come over here to authentication methods and passwords, and you could read the documentation over here. We provide a wide variety of information on how to customize your password, but as you can see here, you can do anything from easily change the minimum required password length to the password complexity requirements, to, again, make sure possibly mitigate password reuse between users or ensure they're using a more secure password. You can require password expiration every so many weeks as you choose. Anything from 1 week, of course, for potentially a more secure use case to more. You can prevent password reuse, so a user can't just, even let's say their password expires, reuse the one that just expired. You can require 10 new passwords between that, or however many you want, and we enable account locking. So with that, that's kind of the basics and how easy it is to get started, build and implement a Descope flow, in this case for passwords, and integrate that or use that with your application. So now let's just talk about some next steps and resources. So you can do something like customize your styling, and add your branding, change the look to best fit your application use case, and we have video on that. Also, if you are newer to Descope and let's say you want to look at example flows or other types of flows that exist, we have this powerful tool, Descope Explorer. So what this is, and this is really cool, is we have a bunch of pre-made flows that cover all sorts of use cases, anything from inviting users to magic link to SAML to using passwords to other types of flows, and you can even test them out right here to see what they look like, or you can download them, upload them to Descope and play around with them. So it's very easy to get started with that. You can also check out our documentation, sign up with a free forever account to play around with or use Descope yourself in your app. And we have a blog that'll be that the slide deck will be shared, so you'll be able to access any of these links. We have a blog post on the power of Descope flows and password authentication. And then finally, you can join Authtown, which is our Slack channel and Descope community, to talk with other Descopers, learn more, get help, figure out other ways of using Descope or other features if you need. And with that, I'll turn to take some questions, if there are any. I'll give this a moment or two to see. Looks like we have this question on, which I'll start answering with, can you utilize password with a login ID rather than an email? And absolutely. And I'll even showcase how to use that, for example. So here I can come up to this example flow right over here, where instead of having an email, we have this custom login ID or a username, for example. So here, instead of entering their email, a user could enter a username that they would want. And the difference between the standard email sign up flow versus this, or sign in rather, is here when we have the sign up, you'll notice, like if you look at the sign up flow, it asks for the custom login ID, and that you can change from over here, we have custom login ID instead of email. And that'll, when you go to sign up now, the only difference is if you want to verify that email and have that tied to the email, you'll have to create this verified email screen that just asks the user to enter their email. And then we'll use that same update user OTP subflow to link that email to their account. And then they could sign in instead with the username if you want to use username instead of email. And I'll take other questions if there are any. So it just provides in general, while I wait to see if there's any questions, any other questions. So just in general, Descope gives you, and I'll demonstrate what this looks like, what this flow looks like. Descope just gives you a whole bunch of ease in building a custom user journey to modify and implement your authentication flow how you want without worrying about changes on your app end. So here, like I'll just, I'll go with Eric W instead. Let me just grab a test password to sign up with this. I'll enter this, we'll click sign up, and now it'll ask for my email. So I'll give it, let's just call it, user at descope.com. Now it'll send me an email. Let me go just grab that link from the email. Let's click on this. I got a new authentication code. We'll grab this, copy it over. And now we'll see not only is the user created, it is also verified. So now if we come over to users, we'll see this new user, the login ID is this username instead of the email, as it was with all these previous ones. But there is still an email here and it is verified. And I can demonstrate the login feature for that as well. If we come back over to the flow, I'll go to run, and I can go custom login ID here, and that's the OTP. Let me copy the password over and copy the password over. And if I hit sign in, now it'll let me easily sign in. So that's how easy that is to do. If there's no other questions, then I'll start wrapping up. I'll give it another few seconds if there's any lingering questions, but if not, I'll start to wrap this up. So looks like there's no other questions. So thank you everyone for coming. I hope this was very helpful and very instructive. Again, this whole slide deck will be shared with you, including the links on this page, but feel free to create an account to start using Descope, start implementing things, check out Descope Explorer for sample flows, and join our Authtown Slack to start interacting with us or fellow Descopers if you want to see use cases or need any help. So with that, again, thank you everyone for coming and taking the time to join. And that's where I'll leave this Power Flows